Every other Wednesday, we talk to the Alicante lawyers, Pellicer and Heredia, and Ignacio is with us this afternoon. Afternoon, so how are you?
Good afternoon. Very good. Thank you. Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's not raining, thank goodness.
Yeah, it seems the spring is starting, isn't it?
It looks like it, yeah. Just almost to the day when it should do.
Yeah.
So how are things in the world of the fast-flying lawyer community in Alicante province and across Valencia?
Well, we've been very busy as usual.
You've been to Madrid, haven't you?
I've been to Madrid, actually yesterday. So good to be in Madrid so fast, so quick with the train. I don't
it's
know
great.
if you tried.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday we had a court case about extradition. Extradition between it was a UK citizen, and the extradition is to be dealt in the High Court in Madrid,
right?
In Audiencia Nacional.
It's considered serious,
very serious actually. You have the High Court just on one side, then you have the whole bodies of judges on the other side, then you have the specific section which is Audiencia Nacional on the other side. So it's pretty serious, all about the law over there. Yeah. So basically, what happened here is this client contacted us some time ago because there was a case in Jersey that they were going. They just starting a case against him, and he's a resident in Spain. He's living in Spain.
So we're looking to bring him back to Guernsey from Spain?
Jersey, actually.
To Jersey, rather, sorry.
Yeah, that's what they wanted, but he was not a resident of Jersey. He hasn't living Jersey. The only thing he had is a bank account that he opened in...
Offshore account.
Yeah, but you open it in the UK, you are able to open it, or you used to be able to open... an account, an international account with currency exchange all around the UK. So that's what happened.
What did they think he'd done?
Well, the situation here is that he already went, the case was, he already went through the courts in the UK for VAT fraud and money laundering, which accepted. And then he pleaded guilty, he paid back all the money and went to prison, and that was it. Okay, right. So that was some time ago. But funny enough, after X amount of time, after 4 years, don't ask me why. Well, probably you know the ins and outs better than me. But the money was transferred to Jersey from England. And that was considered in the court in England. I mean, the whole case as a total was considered. And then you deal with the public prosecutor and then you agree if you plead guilty. And you say, okay, well, if I have 6 charges, then probably I accept 3. And then I go to court and accept it. And then I pay back the money and I go to prison, a minimum time. And that's it. And the whole case is finished. Unfortunately, that did happen. But don't ask me why Jersey, just 4 years after, start looking and searching and say, well, I'm sorry, there is money here that comes from this conduct, from these crimes, and then we're going to accuse you now for money laundering. And obviously the client is saying...
That had been part of what had happened in the UK.
Correct. That is being already dealt with. I did accept it. I agree. I pay all the money back. And I had my punishment, and I agree and accept it, and that was it because I couldn't pay at the time about the VAT.
So by now he's living in Spain.
No, he was always living in Spain. He was living in Spain while everything happened. So this case happened, and this Jersey now start an extradition because obviously he wouldn't go to Jersey. They wanted him to go there to be cross-examined and have a trial. And he said, well, no, I live in Spain. I've been always here in Spain more than 20 years. I have nothing to do with Jersey. The only thing is I transfer money to an international account, bank account in Jersey. And that was it. And the whole case was dealt in the UK, in England.
So you can't be tried for the same thing, surely.
Correct. That's the whole point here.
Double jeopardy.
Double jeopardy. That's the keys. So what happened? This Jersey start a freezing order to try to freeze anything in Spain, which obviously we start representing the client and we start defending him. That was the first approach from Jersey. Then secondly, they start an extradition because he had a video conference and he will never go to Jersey. So they start an extradition. To my knowledge, they did it incorrect, obviously, because they start through a procedure. And they started through a procedure saying when UK left the EU here, that divorce was with a treaty, which is what we call TACA, T-A-C-A, is an agreement, a trade agreement between EU and UK. Right. But it is excluded some of the, I think you call it the British Islands, yeah?
Okay.
So probably...
Channel Islands.
Yeah. So Jersey was excluded, technically. So they did request help through the UK authorities. They did ask for it. And the ministry, the magistrate that is in Madrid on a daily basis that works for the UK is the middleman between UK and Spain for criminal actions, or probably civil, but I would say always more for criminal, obviously. Well, they understood by mistake that Jersey could ask for the extradition through that agreement. Mm-hmm. So the defense we had, obviously hiring a UK barrister, trying to prove that an affidavit of law in front of a public notary in the UK. So it's an affidavit from a barrister to, actually, because Spain requires to sign in front of a public notary and saying why this is wrong. George Jeopardy. I mean, already committed, I pay for it, and I cannot go to jail twice. I cannot pay them for the same crime. Which is difficult to believe, isn't it, Carl, that these things still happen, you
Indeed.
know? You say,
although that mistake was made, believing that Jersey was part of the agreement. Well,
That's what they understand. So they send it to this magistrate, that is the middleman. They accept it. Even the Spanish public prosecutor took it as valid.
Right.
And they started extradition. So we did contest it. Mm-hmm. One of the evidence that we had, which was a strong one, obviously, was the barristers from the UK. And the barristers said, I'm sorry, not only because the human rights prohibits the principle of nebis in idem, which is dual jeopardy, but obviously the TACA, which is the treaty, the actual treaty, does not allow it. Mm-hmm. Plus, the agreement from 1957, which was the original pre-EU, pre-Brexit the original that Jersey had, because we're going back, I'll tell you a story.
We're going back to legal precedent.
Because if this TACA is not applicable, it is
there
applicable.
Must be one that is
before. So we start searching on the other one. And that's what we faced in Madrid the other day with the judge.
He must have loved this, the judge. It's one of those things where you go, what?
So what's going on here? What's going on? I mean, I wish they would have realised before to avoid us going to Madrid, because you could imagine me, even Chema from my law firm, and then the client, obviously going to Madrid just to face that. But anyway, the judge apologised and said, I'm sorry, we have found out, because they do present you with a claim, and then you have 3 days to contest. So thank God the client did their homework very well. Obviously, we did organise all these affidavit of law in the UK to prove what we're saying. Plus, they're a bit of a disaster sending, not knowing what treaty you should use.
Indeed.
So it's been literally called throwing out of court. But
so meanwhile, is your client going to go for some compensation here, or do you have to wait?
He already sent me the bill yesterday. He's saying, Ignacio, just go there. He said, well, you know what they're going to say, Spain is what it's going to say, but I say these are on writing, so once Spain says we're not going to pay, which is obvious, he will go to Jersey and say, now you pay me, which I agree. I say, what are you doing here? Wow. But you wouldn't, if you tell me, Ignacio, is it likely to happen, these kind of things? There is not likely. Not even 1% that a country makes such a mistake. You know?
No, that's quite surprising, but it's almost 2 countries making that mistake, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, it's, if it's Jersey and the UK.
Everyone
in that chain.
Because even when they did, it was one after the other one, and then the Spanish public prosecutor is still copy and paste the trade agreement without checking. So we did
effectively.
Sorry,
3 countries effectively.
Yeah. So it's a chain.
Yeah.
But I was telling to Chema yesterday, Sam, how important is when a client believes in justice in one thing, okay, does his best to get all the evidence, because if I wouldn't have all the affidavit of law from the UK, from barristers as well, because Spain doesn't know about the law in the country, so you need to prove the law of the other country that is requesting. If we want to object something, you need to prove that. But it's not good enough to just attach a photocopy of something, you know? You need to build it properly. And it was quite interesting, Cole. It was, but the most important thing was to give the good news and let him go home.
Absolutely.
You know,
and it's almost a sense of injustice. Even though, originally guilty of a crime, but it comes back at you again. Having already served. How quick does extradition work in Spain? Is it because we know a lot of other cases can take quite a long time? But extradition, if another country requests that, then is it?
It depends on treaties.
Situation?
It depends on treaties again.
Treaties, yeah.
So now, how long is it going to take Jersey again to go back on here? Well, obviously longer than what they've done at the moment. Normally you will take an average of 4 months. Yeah, depending whether, because in some cases they arrest you straight away.
Indeed.
Actually, the whole case starts with arrest warrant, and then you have a hearing, and then lucky you if your lawyer is able to convince the judge to say, okay, I'll pull my passport on bail, so I'll be on bail.
I would imagine, people under extradition are probably a flight risk.
Yeah. Which we did, which was very good because everything was very well prepared when he arrived with the order. I mean, the police arrived to his house. He gave us a ring. And that was excellent, So I'm so happy for him because it's second round. And it's unfair, Carl.
Injustice.
You don't believe these things could happen. But if you, by any reason, did not even contest it, he will be already in Jersey and probably performing sentence.
Coming up, we'll be talking about the European Blue Card. This is something that may help if you've been living in one EU country as a third country citizen, so say perhaps from the UK or USA, and want to move to another European country. Anyway, we're getting our information together on that. Meanwhile, the subject of the webinar yesterday on your website was all about equity release. So this is after a certain age, right? So you can get some money from your property perhaps in order to make improvements or to help you live for the rest of your days in a better way. So how easy is that? We see on UK TV companies offering this sort of thing all the time. Right. Take the money that's the money you have in your property and use it now. But sometimes the deals aren't always as great as you might think.
That's correct. I mean, here it was popular some time ago. I think 2005 we had the equity release.
So pre-financial crisis.
Yes, previous. But actually that changed. No banks did offer any longer. And now we have Darcy could give you a little bit more information because he works for Mapfre. And Mapfre started a project here about equity release, and I think they're doing it with Santander, right? But they're the one who are running this business at the moment. And the thing that what they do is you need to be over 65. You need to be in an area where the valuation is okay for them. So that means that it's possible to sell, probably not in a depressed area or a selected area.
More along the coast, less inland. Depends. Areas, though.
It depends. It depends. Probably if you are very much inland in the campo with no civilization, probably that will not happen, because you don't have a potential to sell eventually. But the
areas where the property moves well.
That's correct. Yeah, when it's easy to sell. But to give you a obviously I will tell the audience to watch back the webinar from yesterday with all the details,
which is on the website alicantilawyers.es.
And but just giving you the bullet points. Basically, you need to be over 65. Obviously, the older that you are, the better. You need to basically just transfer, let's say, husband to wife, wife to husband. So these people from Mapfre, they want to have a copy of the wills, obviously a copy of your title deed, and they really want something for their peace of mind or consent. They want the family to be aware, and there is not any possibility of contesting wills. That's their main concern, you know. Why is that? Because they're not interested about court cases in the future.
No.
What they're interested is, if you guys wants to have a better life, here is a project. If you're over 65, this is the valuation. The property needs to be over 200,000 euros. And therefore, they will give you a percentage. And the way you're going to receive the money, you will agree with them, whether it's on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, or I don't know if they will even do it in a lump sum, right?
Would they do that for the whole of the property?
The whole of the property, yeah. You need to be.
It's not like part of the.
No,
it's just for the whole.
It's
of the
like a
property,
charge. Instead, you remember when we buy a property, you put a charge against the property because you need the money to buy a property. Well, here is the other way around.
It's like a reverse mortgage.
It's a reverse mortgage, correct? What you do now is, okay, I want to have some equity from my property. I want to make a better living. Mm-hmm. And eventually, I think it's a good business because eventually, I mean, we don't know when we're going to go, but eventually when we go, children or beneficiaries, so the husband and the wife, so the married couple or the partners, legally partners, they could use the property forever. So that's a good part of it, right? But obviously you have a charge against the property, and only when you both pass away, the beneficiaries will need to either pay off the mortgage or just put it for sale and cancel the mortgage, or they will repossess the property. Now, how much will you get? I don't think you will get, but this is just general figures. I don't think you'll get more than 50% of the valuation, right? I don't think you will, but you need to be subject to a specific project, okay? But Darcy from our office, which he works with Mapfre, he could prepare
the insurance company.
Yeah, the insurance company in Spain. They could do a project based on your age, on the valuation of the property.
So give you an assessment.
An assessment, correct, on whether it suits you. And then from a legal point of view, you know that the UK, for example, in this case, you have free disposal of assets. Depending on nationality, you need to have consent. For example, for Spaniards, they wouldn't do that without the children giving consent.
But the laws are slightly different for expats,
correct,
aren't they, than
correct,
they are for Spaniards.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they don't want to be misinformed, misadvised, you know, because of their reputation. They don't want to make business with issues or with problems. So they want the whole family. Now, how about if I don't have children? Or what about if my children, they don't talk to me? All right. Well, there's a specific case that needs to be work on properly between Madrid legal team and us, you know, because it's very specific, right? Because they want peace of mind.
Okay.
But if you don't have children, then that would be a problem, but you will need to prove that you have no children. I did suggest as well to Mapfre even to prepare a letter of consent from children or going to the notary as well and sign that. But the good part of it, Carl, is that at the end of the day, you're just living in the property that you pay for. You're getting a rent, an income to have a better pension. And eventually, who knows when you're going to go.
But you have the property is yours and or your partner's until the last
until you
one.
pass away.
Yeah.
Correct. And eventually, let's say if you're going to pass away, I don't know, 20 years after or 15 years after, right? Well, you know, property in one way or the other is going to go up.
Of course.
So probably you're not going to lose money. This is me guessing, right? Because depending on the time, beneficiaries might still cancel the mortgage and still have equity. And the parents did enjoy a little bit of a better life, you know? So I think it could be quite interesting.
I mean, that's always obviously still going to be subject to inheritance depending on people's status.
Inheritance in what respect you mean?
If there is money left at the end.
If there is money left, you will have to have equity, and then you will have to inherit some people.
Depending on your status for inheritance, obviously,
correct.
Whether you're UK, whether you're in a different country in the
If the
EU
assets
or
are in Spain, and the beneficiaries are children, so far is very good position because you've got big allowances, right? So you've got 100,000 euros per beneficiary, then on main property, 150,000 euros extra, and then after that, whatever tax is 99% off. So it's a very good. I don't know how long, because you know how politics are. So they might change it. But that's one option. Yesterday, some guys were just suggesting, Ignacio, what about if we do the donation? So it's secure already. Well, that's another option. It's the same tax of inheritance tax. You could do a donation between children, a family, and you could donate the legal ownership and you still keep the life interest of the property. That's another good thing.
Okay, so
there are options.
Ways, yeah.
There are options. But I think it's very good, especially because some clients I had saying, Ignacio, my children are wealthy enough. They don't need money. We're a bit tight and we better enjoy. My children has said we spend whatever we want to spend. And we want to do it with a reputable company that are not going to sell the credit to somebody else and they're going to kick me out of my property, because that was another point.
Of course, it's another thing you need to consider.
Because you are doing this with whom? With what company you're doing that? They're going to kick you out. And he said, I never thought about it.
Mapfre and Santander, two of the biggest entities in Spain.
Yeah, they're not
reputable companies.
Yes, yeah. So this is a project that just came through very recently, and I think it's quite interesting, at least to have an assessment, as you say, and then everybody could make their own. So they will have a look and put a case, give you an idea. A project,
of what.
This is what you could get. This is how much it's worth. Is it worth it or is it not worth it? Okay. And then you take it from there. It's always worth it to talk to the lawyer about the inheritance taxes, possible scenarios, etc. Yeah. But I think it could be nice.
It's going to work for some people,
I think so. Yeah, I really think so. So I'm glad for them.
Had a question from Andy at Brits Living in Spain, the YouTube channel, the other day. A couple of subscribers who live in France at the moment, Ignacio. Now, the question was about moving between different EU states. They've been resident in France for 4+ years, is the information that I have. Been there since Brexit and now want to move to Spain. Now, they have some difficulties trying to find the right way to do this. They are retired, because we know we were talking about the blue visa, which we might touch on if we have time, but that's for people highly
professionals,
skilled professionals. So the people in question are retired, currently listening in Valencia, actually,
right.
I want to tell you.
Oh, right.
But they want to move to Spain, and the question was, is it not possible to transfer one EU residency from one EU state to another? So say, in this case, from France to Spain.
Right. Well, the way to do it, as you said, if you're professionals, you need to go for the blue card, and then you're able to travel around Europe, okay? The 26 countries you mentioned. But that's not the case. Probably the case is going to be people living in a different EU country. Requirements, they need to be more than 5 years in that country, because they need to apply for a long-term residency EU. That's the word. So they need to make an appointment at the immigration office in France and ask for the as soon as they can in France doing.
So at the 5-year mark, yeah.
But in Spain it's 5 years. If in France is less, they should check over there.
I would have thought EU rules would
immigration is
be
different.
Okay.
Immigration in every country is different. It's not because it's like taxes. It's still, not being unified. Okay, so.
We're going on the information that we know about Spain, but hopefully it will apply similarly.
Yeah. And so the way they need to do is apply for the long-term European residency EU. So it's not like permanente in Spain. You see, permanente or permanent resident is after 5 years, then you will go reissue your green card or your TIE. After 5 years, you've got the permanent, and it will say permanent, right? Well, in France, they need to do exactly the same. I presume it will be 5 years, but they could double check in France how soon they could apply for
so initially
permanent.
Get that permanent residency.
In France, in origin. If you don't get that, you cannot transfer it to Spain. And once you get that residency, you could transfer it here to Spain and obviously swap it here.
Okay. You have to so get it in France, and then you come to Spain and you can change it here.
Correct. Okay. That's exactly how. If you don't get it in France, you will not be able to get it here or to swap it here. So it's like a requirement or pre-requirement that unless you have it from the origin country,
right,
where you come from.
Where you initially got your
Residency.
equivalent of TIE, yeah.
Right. You will not be able to swap it. It's swapping, basically.
Right.
So,
But you have to have
you have to start from there. You start. Everybody needs to start from
the country of origin.
where they're resident as a permanent. So that's the key. They need to be permanent resident in that country. Apply for that residency instead of asking for a permanent one, like in Spain. Let's do the other way around. You're in Spain. You go now after 5 years, and you don't apply for the permanent. You apply for the long-term EU permanent residency. So it's a different one, right? It's a different card. It's not the typical.
That one, and that one allows you
to move and swap it in a different country. So that's the answer.
Right, excellent.
I'm sorry, it's a bit complex.
No, but we know it generally is. Post-Brexit, we're finding out lots of different things that we didn't know about. And here we are, this many years down the line.
Yeah, there are many issues on residency requirements and types that we could probably talk in the next show about different that nobody knows about that type of residency, but might be useful for people. So here we go.
Okay, that was instant response here. Result, excellent info. Thank you.
All right.
We'll put them in touch with Pellicer and Heredia.
All right, thank you.
They're asking about an office in Quesada.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, they say no problem in Quesada. We've got offices in Quesada, Hondon, Alicante, Moreira, Javier, and we go to Denny as well. And Almeria, I drive once in a while to Almeria.
Yep. Nice drive that as well. You can listen to BayRadio all the way as
I
well.
think so, yeah, BayRadio.
Yeah,
actually, I'm having problems to listen by the airport. That's the only part that...
At that dip as you go down.
Yes.
It's just because the hill's behind, Just hang on in there, it comes back.
But probably with the digital app probably you could...
Actually, that's it.
That works.
You don't have DAB in the car, Ignacio?
Yeah.
you need to speak to the partners.
Expert.
Speak to the partners.
It's true, yeah. Claim for a raise.
DAB in your radio.
Yeah, new car.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, great. Thanks very much for your help on that one. I'm sure that's going to be music to the people who are concerned about that, to their ears. But I'm sure they'll be able to sort something out on that one. Interesting stuff today as well. If you'd like to find out more about the Blue Card, you can do that as well on the website alicantilawyers.es.